from Europe,
Yeah.
under the radar.
I went
11.
mosely Premier League because that's
Same.
the
I
league
think I
watch.
have one, two. I have 3 players not in the Premier League.
Okay, I've got a few.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
At goal, who do you have in goal?
Goal. This was the first name that came to mind for me. I think it was probably the most obvious name on my list. It's Vicario at Spurs.
That was my first name. I didn't go with him though.
So 9 games, 9 starts. And I went pretty statsy with this. So I like to use SofaScore for sort of ratings and numbers. So 7.33 average rating on there. 4 clean sheets. 3.6 saves per game, which is 80%, and he hasn't conceded a goal from outside the box, which is kind of impressive in 9 attempts. So I think he's been really solid. I think under the radar is a good description because everybody's been talking about maybe the more controversial goalkeepers, Raya, Onana, players like that, Sanchez at Chelsea. But Vicario, I don't think he's really gotten the praise he deserves. I think he was clearly the second choice to Raya, and he's come in and been great. With his feet, he's been good. He's a great shot stopper. So I think he's been really impressive and probably hasn't got the plaudits in terms of Spurs players either, because everybody's been talking about Maddison, Son. So under the radar, I think he's been really solid.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, that was the first name that came to my mind, but I went with someone different. I went with the ex-Fairfield Stag, Matt Turner.
Whoa,
at
interesting.
Forest. Matt Turner, I think, this was an interesting one. His move to Arsenal was a bit surprising because we were like, oh, he's having a good year with the Revs.
We saw him play.
Walking into Turner Wonderland.
Yeah.
But then he got his move to Forest. I was like, okay, is he going to be a number 1 in the Premier League? And he has been. I think Forest have made a good start. He's looked solid in goal. We've seen bigger and apparently better goalkeepers like Onana, like Raya, like Sanchez, make a couple howlers struggle in the Premier League for teams that dominate the ball. So for a team like Forest, who's under the cosh a bit, I think Matt Turner has been really good for them, and I think that's not really been talked about a lot because yes, it's the goalkeeper position, but Americans are always under the spotlight in the Premier League, whether it was Pulisic at Chelsea or Adams and Aaronson at Leeds last year. So I think big old Matt Turner can be proud of himself for the start he's made to life at Forest.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
All right, right back. Who do you got?
So right back, I'm going to Europe here.
Okay.
A former Premier League player who, sort of out of the blue, fell out with his manager, went on loan, now is loving life in Barcelona. João Cancelo.
Yep.
Back at right back, 7 games, 6 starts, 7.77 average rating.
You love your ratings.
Love a good rating.
Mine are all based on vibes.
Fair enough. He's got 2 goals, 1 assist, and 3 big chances created. Huge attacking output, 84% pass accuracy per game. And then on the defensive side, 3 clean sheets, 3.7 tackles per game, which leads La Liga. He's been a monster on both sides of the ball. João Cancelo, back to his best. I think that's gone under the radar.
I think I'm with you there. That's a good pick. Didn't think of João. My pick, staying in the Premier League, staying at Tottenham, Pedro Porro, I think, in terms of what he's been able to do defensively, has been huge. Because I think there were question marks last season where he did kind of seem like a failed right winger turned right wing back, and whether he was going to be able to play as an out-and-out right back was very much up for debate. What he's done under Ange has been hugely impressive. The way Ange plays with kind of this Pep style of bringing the fullbacks into midfield, it's brought out the best of Porro. We talked about him a little bit today, but I think it's been more about the Basumas, the Maddisons, the Sons of the world, not the Vicarios and Pedro Porro. So I've been really impressed with him because he was highly touted. He was a City guy, went over to Sporting, and then they brought him in last January. He was supposed to be the missing piece in the Conte puzzle. Never really found his footing, but he has under Ange, so I really like Porro. I think he's been great for them. He's my right back.
Yeah.
All right, left center back. It doesn't have to be our first center back.
Are we giving first center back? Okay, yeah. First center back, staying in Europe here, just an old but gold, Mats Hummels. He's been good this season.
Okay.
7 games, 7 starts, 7.41 average rating, 2 goals. Really sneaky there. 90% pass accuracy per game. That's impressive. 76% accurate long balls. Love that. 3 clean sheets, no errors leading to shots or goals. Just still doing it at age 34. I think he's bounced between the Der Klassiker clubs. Again, 34 years of age, still kicking around, still a really high performer in the Dortmund side. So yeah, and old but gold, plays in gold too, or yellow, whatever you want to call it.
Whatever you want to say.
So yeah, Mats Hummels. I mean, he's just been solid, really, really solid for Borussia Dortmund. So he's one of my center backs.
Cheeky shout. My left-sided center back, England international now, Mark Gahey.
Ooh, good one.
This is a guy I'm really impressed with. His presence on the ball is superb. His average SOFA score this year is a solid 7, so he's putting in good performances every week for a team like Palace, who's consistently, under the cosh, under pressure. But I think for a Crystal Palace center back to get into the England team, given how stubborn Gareth Southgate usually is impressive. It takes there to be, it's not subjective how good he is. He has been objectively very good.
Yep.
Him and Anderson are a great pairing. The fact he's left-footed, you got Anderson.
Yeah, I do.
I thought of it. It's because they're solid. They're good. I mean, this past weekend was.
They're going under the radar, man. They haven't gotten a lot of plaudits.
Yeah, they got walloped by Newcastle this weekend. But I really like Gahey. I mean, that purchase from Chelsea for, I think it was less than 30 million was a steal. He lit up the championship, came right into the Prem. He's a big favorite of mine, and he's had a great start to the season.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted to get a Palace player in here.
So you got Anderson.
So I've got Anderson for similar reasons, really. 7.56 rating, 2 goals for Joachim Anderson, 83% pass accuracy per game, 4 clean sheets. Ground duels 1, aerial duels 1, both in the 70% range. So again, just a really solid performer. Really nice partnership with Gahey. Again, I mean, just Palace. I actually think both of these guys could probably go on beyond Palace's level. They've got a few guys who can probably play in a Big Six club, if you will, and I don't love that term. But so yeah, I mean, Joachim Anderson, great last season. This season, going a little more under the radar. Maybe everybody just realizes he's an established Premier League center back. But I think he deserves more plaudits. He's definitely going under the radar. Really, really solid player. Danish international, I believe.
Yep, he is.
Yeah, so a mainstay on that side as well.
My right-sided center back is a West Ham player. Kurt Zouma, I think, has gone under the radar. He's West Ham's captain now. Him and Saliba are the only 2 center backs to have played every game and not been dribbled past in the Premier League.
Ooh,
He's
I like that.
Played 9 games, played 90 minutes in every game. His fitness has been a question over the years, but he's stayed fit. And he's been a rock for us. And I think he's key to how Moyes wants to play because it's a lot of headers out. It's a lot of, scrambles in the box. And he's been really solid, really ever since he came to West Ham 2 seasons ago. So big Kurt Zouma, the captain of West Ham.
That is sneaky that he's gone under the radar as captain.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah, that's a good shout.
Because you're replacing Rice. Maybe Rice wasn't the best captain, but before Rice, Noble was there. So that's a big.
No, those shoes to fill.
And he's great in the dressing room. Pictures of him laughing and smiling, and he kind of
kicking cats.
Had to drop that in there. We've moved on, Kurt. Moyes kind of referenced it.
He's learned.
In a presser, he was like, yeah, he's made some mistakes off the field, but he's learning from it. It's like, Moisey, what are we doing here?
Oh, man.
So that's my center back, too, Zouma and Gahey.
So left back, I struggled here. I'm staying... Sort of shoehorning him in, not really though, because he has played left back and does from time to time. David Alaba at Madrid.
Okay.
I wanted to have a La Liga presence in this team. I've tried to touch on most of the leagues. So David Alaba, yes, he's played a lot of center back, but I think he fits the under the radar description because everybody's talked about Bellingham and Vinicius and the midfield, but the back line has been solid. I mean, 8 games, 8 starts. He's a mainstay in the team. 7.14 average rating, and he, by the way, he's always I think the first center back or defender on the team sheet. I mean, Rudiger has had spells out of the team. Militao is now injured, right? So he won't be anywhere near it. But again, can play center back, can play left back. No errors leading to shots or goals, and 0.1 times dribbled past per game. So, next to nothing.
Pretty low.
Not quite as good as your boy Zouma, which is a flat-out 0, but that's a good stat. So, yeah, David Alaba, listen, he's been great for years. I mean, I know we're basing this on this season, and he has been good this season. But zooming out, I mean, for Bayern, one of the first names on the team sheet, now for Madrid, he's been excellent for them in 2 positions.
Yeah, my pick, I don't love it. I like it. I'm going with Milos Kerkez of Bournemouth.
Ooh, okay.
Young player, energetic, and while Bournemouth have not started well, he's been a bright spot. His stats aren't great because Bournemouth haven't been great, but every time I've watched them, it's been like, oh, he's got something.
He's got something,
yeah. The Hungarian international. So I'm gonna go with Kirkez there.
I like that.
So we move into midfield.
I've got a 4-3-3, by the way.
Mine is also a 4-3-3 of sorts.
Yeah.
You can start things off. What you got?
So I've got, I guess I have sort of a double pivot, but one of my central midfielders plays for Milan. One of my I'll be honest. I discovered this guy really recently, but I fucking love him.
He's a baller.
Yassine Adli. Okay. The dude is really nice to watch on the eye. He's only played 4 times, 4 starts in Serie A. He's come back from loan. He's worked his way into the team. 7.17 average SOFA score rating, so maybe not the highest on this list, but still, again, 7 is quality and fits the under-the-radar description because I haven't heard anyone really talk about him, and he's just sort of popped up out of nowhere. 87% pass accuracy per game, 4.2 balls recovered, so not bad. Not a monster defensively, only 50% of his ground duels won, and 67% of aerial duels won, though, and 2.2 tackles, so decent defensive output. But where he excels really is passing, and that's where he's fun to watch. Sprays it around. He's got a good size to him, and I think he's added a little bit something different in this Milan midfield, who are lacking Benacer. I think he's out with a long-term injury. Raniers has come in and looked really good as well. Oh, interesting. Maybe we'll get onto him. But Yassine Adli, man, he's been really, really nice on the eye is what I'd use to describe him. He's a player that I just really like watching, and he's just sort of popped up in this Milan team, and he's performing well. So I think under the radar, Yassine Adli is sort of, I guess he's sort of my deep lying playmaker.
Yeah, I've got another. I have Reinders in my midfield.
Okay.
I saw this guy in the Conference League last year against West Ham. Scored a goal against us at the London Stadium. He's got a 7.1 average SOFA score, and I think Milan have made an impressive start, and losing Tonali, I think Adli and Reinders, funnily enough, are kind of the combo that have made them so successful. I think in the Champions League too, he's made his presence known, and he just looks like a Milan player. He's got that stature, that aura, if you will. Some other stats here, he's played a ton of games. He's averaging over 70 minutes a game in midfield, which is not easy to do. So I'm going to go with Tijani Reinders.
Yeah.
Okay. Next midfielder.
Next one, we touched on him earlier. Premier League performer. 9 games, 9 starts, 5 goals. Douglas Luiz.
Okay.
He's been great. I mean, and under the radar. Like, everybody's been talking about Ollie Watkins and Diaby.
Has
and
everyone been talking about Ollie Watkins?
I think everyone's been talking about him.
That's an issue.
Maybe that's more of like an England thing. Oh, we should be in the England squad.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I didn't include Ollie Watkins. I did include Douglas Luiz.
Okay.
Yes, he scored 3 penalties, but still got to put it in the net. 87% pass accuracy per game. I think his passing is underrated. Does put up some good defensive output as well, but doesn't need to be that defensive monster with Kamara alongside him. So I think he's found a really nice role in this team, keeping Tielemans out of the side.
Yeah.
So that's impressive. Douglas Luiz, his output on both sides of the ball, I think he's gone under the radar. I think he's been great.
I'm going with a PSG player, youngster, Warren Zaire Emery, the young Frenchman. And, this guy stuck out when PSG traveled to Newcastle and got walloped. And he was really the only guy who could, leave St. James's with his head held high. He just looks like he's got so much composure, so much aggression, courage as such a youngster in midfield. And I think a lot of people talk about PSG's big names and big signings like Ugarte and then obviously Dembele and Kolo Muani, but this is a guy who came through the system and has really impressed thus far. He's got a 7.1 average rating between the Champions League and Ligue 1, so he's been consistently quality. I think he's really one to watch out for, as his career progresses because he is so young. He's only going to get better. So I went with the young Frenchman Zaire Emery.
That's a good shout. I like it. So last midfielder for me, definitely the most attacking of the 3. His numbers haven't been amazing yet in terms of goals and assists, but I think he's a really good player. Morgan Gibbs-White for Forest.
That was one I was thinking of.
He's been under the radar for, I would say, the past 2 seasons now. I think 9 games played, 8 starts. He's a mainstay in that attack. I think he's really crucial for them. With a 1 year ahead of him, and some combination of wingers. You'd like to think Alanga and Hudson-Odoi on either side. But Gibbs White is kind of the guy in this team. And I think that's gone under the radar. 7.31 average SofaScore rating.
That's
so
quality.
just a really solid performer for Forest. Great high presser, excellent playmaker. Like I said, goal and assist numbers not quite there yet. I don't think he scored, but he's playing really well.
My pick is an Everton boy,
Oh,
Amadou Onana. This is a
I was thinking
guy.
about him.
When West Ham were linked with him last summer, I looked at his highlight reel. I was, oh, this guy's got something about him. And maybe last year he wasn't the finished product, but he's played all 9 games through this year, averaging 87 minutes per game, averaging over a shot per game at 1.4, and he's doing a ton of dirty work, and he just gets around. And I think he doesn't get the plaudits he deserves because he plays for a mid to bottom table team. But he has potential to, dare I say, move on to a bigger club one day in his career.
does.
He's still young. He's only 22.
Really young.
But he's just got this tenacity and physicality that's really unique. You don't
Great
see,
attitude, too.
Yeah, similar, not attitude, but similar build to someone like Paul Pogba, who is big but can get around, has physicality
Lanky.
but can pass. Someone I really like. So my
Yeah.
midfield doesn't really have anyone out as like a number 10. Unahi and Zaire Emery are both kind of forward-thinking 8s, and Onana is kind of a traditional 8, bit more physicality. So
He's been playing quite deep this
Yeah.
season,
Yeah.
Onana. He's eating up a ton of ground. I love watching him slide tackle
Yeah.
because he's so good at it, and his
Yeah.
legs are just so long. Yeah, he eats up a ton of ground. Looks more comfortable in a deeper sort of
Yeah.
playmaker, defensive role.
I just included him because every time I see him play, he plays well, seemingly. So I think that hasn't really been spoken about. So
Yeah,
he's in
under the
there.
radar.
Yep.
For sure.
Moving to the front 3, who do you got?
I'll start on the right side. Wanted to find a spot for him in this team, whether it's left back or right wing. Solly March had to get a Brighton guy in here. He's
okay.
been great for a while for Brighton.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been there since as long as I can remember. Really, I don't even know where they got him from, but certainly like pre-Potter. I remember him. I think he was there when like Chris Hughton maybe and those guys were there. Maybe not. But anyway, 7 games, 7 starts. He's played right wing, which is where I have him, and he's played left back, which is just typical De Zerbi. He'll play Pascal Gross and like Solly March at left back,
Yeah.
and you're like, aren't these guys attackers? 7.37 average SofaScore rating, 3 goals, 0.4 goals per game. That's really good output from Solly March. And then defensively, he's been good too. 2.7 tackles per game. That's a number. Those are numbers of defensive and midfielders and fullbacks even. So I think he's just great on both sides of the ball. And it's just a nice story because it's not like Brighton have gone out and signed all these new guys. And yeah, a lot of them have been new and steals in the market. But then you've got guys like Lewis Dunk and Solly March who have just been there as they've soared up the table. And I think he deserves a place in this under-the-radar 11 because he's been under the radar for years.
Yeah, I've also got a Brighton attacker. We'll get to him later. But on the right side, I've got is it Mathis or Mateus Tell
Oh, yeah.
of Bayern. This guy, he scored
been
2
great.
goals in the Champions League, only playing 12 minutes. He scored 3 goals in the Bundesliga, only playing 20 minutes per game. So he's coming off the bench to replace Kane, but he is scoring. And I think this guy is a name to watch out for in future years. Football Manager legend also. He always seems to go on to big things in every FM game I've played. Really exciting young player. He's got a lot of explosiveness in his game. And like I've said, he just hasn't got many minutes, but he's scored goals, which is really impressive. Scoring goals every 54 minutes in the Bundesliga, that tells you something there.
Yeah.
So I've got him on the right. I'll go into my left winger because you just touched on the Brighton one. I've got Pascal Gross. This is a similar guy who, if you put a line of Brighton players out, I'm not totally convinced I could pick out which one was Pascal Gross, but he always scores, and he always has glimpses of just real quality.
Plays everywhere.
Plays everywhere. I think so. You think of Brighton, and recently you've got Ferguson's getting a lot of plaudits, Matoma, but guys like March, guys like Pascal Gross, who have been there before, they just do it week in, week out. I don't think they get the credit they deserve. So, yeah, I've got Tell on the right, Gross on the left, kind of interchanging. Those are 2 of my front 3. Who's your other winger before we get to the striker?
The Korean guy, Kwang Hee-chan. He's been great.
Yeah.
In and out of the side, 9 games, 6 starts, 7.17 average SofaScore rating, so pretty good there. 5 goals, 1 assist, so that's 0.6 goals per game he's got. Really, really impressive. Really under the radar. You got a bit of attention scoring against Man City, of course, with Pep's comments. But I think aside from that, he's been really solid for Wolves. And you look at that front 3 now: Hwang, Neto, and maybe someone like Kaladzic, if he can get going. He scored a few goals. Cunha around there as well. Could be enough attacking production to keep them comfortably in the league, something that I didn't think I'd be saying at this stage of the season. I still have concerns over Wolves, but Hwang Hee-chan, if he can keep performing like this, they'll be absolutely fine because he's been really solid and going under the radar. Everybody's been talking about maybe the renaissance of Pedro Neto and the defense has been really good. Craig Dawson, your boy.
Yep.
Hwang Hee-chan's flown under the radar.
My striker, I did have Watkins. I changed. Maybe a bit of a stretch here for under the radar. I don't think Julian Alvarez gets as much credit as he deserves. He's got a 9.2 average SofaScore rating in the Champions League.
That's absurd.
7.6 in the Premier League, and he's doing it all under Erling Haaland. He's got 4 goals in the Prem. In the Champions League, he's got 3. So he's putting up good numbers. And when this guy came, it was like for cheap. He was going to be the young, understudied Haaland, but Pep has found a way to shoehorn him in. He's just been electric. The goals he scores, I don't think it's talked about enough. I just don't
Plays
think
everywhere,
I don't
too.
think he gets talked about enough in terms of with De Bruyne out, City have to come up with goals somewhere else. And yes, Haaland's still been good, and maybe not last year good, but Alvarez has scored some crucial goals in the absence of Mahrez, of Sterling in past years, of guys who City have let go. He's really taken the next step to being a true world-class talent, and you're seeing that. Don't know if that gets talked about as much as it should.
I agree. He's been played all over the pitch.
Yeah.
Wing, in behind. He's played in the De Bruyne role. He's a natural striker. I mean, he was the guy Messi played off of in the World Cup. He's just so versatile. I think that's really impressive. You're right. Not talked about enough.
All right, that's going to do it. So my 11 is Matt Turner in goal.
I've got one more.
Oh, you?
Center forward.
Oh, I didn't do center forward.
Have you done center?
Yeah, I just did it.
Oh yeah, that was your guy.
Sorry, I screwed that up.
So I've got I've got another Milan guy, Olivier Giroud.
Okay.
Listen, another old but gold. 8 games, 7 starts, so 63 minutes per game. He's got 4 goals, so he's scoring every 126 minutes. That's pretty good. I forget how old he is. He's got to be mid-30s though.
Yeah.
0.5 goals per game, 3 assists, 3 big chances created, 1.2 key passes per game. Sneaky creative there. And a 64% pass accuracy, which is really good for a center forward. Giroud, people have forgotten about him, but he's been a really reliable performer in the team that's challenging in Serie A.
Gotta respect that. Gotta
respect it.
Big Ollie. All right, so let's try this again. So mine, starting 11, goalie Matt Turner, right back Pedro Porro. My 2 center backs are Mark Gahey and Kurt Zuma. Milos Kerkez at left back. A midfield 3 of Unahi, Zaire Emery, and Onana. And then the front 3 of Pascal Gross, Matthias Tell, and Julian Alvarez.
Cheeky. Love it. I've got Vicario in goal, right back Cancelo, Hummels, and Joachim Anderson. Center backs, David Alaba playing at left back. Midfield 3, I've got Yassine Adli of Milan, my new favorite player. Douglas Luiz and Morgan Gibbs-White. Front 3, I've got Solly March on the right, Hwang Hee-chan on the left, and Giroud up front.
Solid teams, I think. I think they did a good job.
Super under the radar.